So now let's talk about making a plan. You may not feel up to it. You may just be sort of floundering around because there's all this information coming at you and it's really difficult to take it in. I would suggest, if you have got someone that can go with you, that can take a notepad and write down what the surgeon or the oncologist says, then that's a real help, because you'll hear about a third of what they say because you're sort of in panic mode just going into the hospital to see the surgeon or the oncologist. And I was fortunate enough to have my husband with me, and then we'd talk in the car on the way home, and I'd say, oh, ask a particular question, and he said, well, she gave you the answer to that, and she'd tell me, and I said, I got no memory of her saying it. So that was really helpful, because usually what he told me was comforting and reassuring, and I would have had to manage without that. So that's what I would suggest. I want to talk about feeling in control, because one of the things I felt was that I had lost control of my life, and it's absolutely true. Instead of carrying out your normal activities, you are given a list of appointments that you have to attend, and you will feel unwell at certain times, and you can actually work out when that will be. But having that information is a tool that you can use to make your experience a lot more comfortable, because if you anticipate when you'll feel your best and when you won't, you can plan around it. And also, it seemed like such a lot of appointments. So my husband, in his wisdom, made me an Excel spreadsheet, and I've still got it. And on this spreadsheet, he put down the day of the week, the date, and then the time. And then, for example, he started actually from when I discovered the tumour, and then the doctor's appointment, biopsy and mammogram, results confirmed, consultation with my surgeon in Neville Hall Hospital, where I was treated, and so on. And on here we've got, I had a clip inserted to monitor the size of the tumour as I was receiving the chemotherapy, so that my surgeon could see its effectiveness. And I had a mugger heart scan just to check on my heart output function at the outset before the chemo, and then I also had that when I was receiving the Herceptin injections after I'd finished chemo, but I'll talk about that in a separate episode. So clinic appointments before you have your chemo, to have blood tests to check how your white blood cells and red blood cells are doing. Even the district nurse coming when I came after I'd had the chemotherapy treatment, coming the next day to give me an injection to boost my white blood cells. So in writing it all down, and you'll see that I've got ticks, and then I've written other information on. So for example, my second chemotherapy session, my friend Kath took me. People offered to help, and for once in my life I took them up on those offers, and you should. Not just for your own sake, but it gave my husband a day off taking me, but also that your friends and your family feel a bit helpless and they want to know what to do. So if you direct them, if you ask, then they feel they're needed. They feel that they can do something positive to contribute. So yes, I've got others, and I remember ticking it off, and every one that I ticked, I felt I was making progress. I was going forward. And by having the list, it was like I'd taken back control of my life to some extent, and that I could see what was ahead and when, and then I would work out when I would feel at my best. It's a 3-week cycle. And then we could plan to do something when I was feeling well, but obviously carefully, avoiding contact with others to minimise the risk of infection, which we all know about now. I remember wanting to buy face masks so that if we went out when I was at my most vulnerable time, that I wouldn't have to worry. But my husband said, oh, perhaps that's a bit too much. You know, we don't wear face masks in this country. It's sort of Japan and China, really. So I didn't. And lo and behold, when COVID-19 came, we all wore masks, and it was compulsory. So you should have masks in readiness for your experience. So that's what I thoroughly recommend. If someone can help you with it, that would be great. But if not, it is worth it when you feel your head's clear enough to sit down with your computer or write it all down in a book. Then you will feel a bit more like you have some control and understanding of the months ahead. So the other thing that I did, because I decided to keep working and because my employer was supportive of that, I made a calendar with colour codes so that I could see, but also my employer and my colleagues could see when I was in work, then when I was having an ultrasound there, actually a couple of days holiday, and then August, pre-chemo clinic appointment, then back in work, then August the 4th chemo at Velindre, recovery day the next day, and it's the weekend, and then recovery day Monday and Tuesday, then back in work. Now initially when I was working I thought, oh well, you know, have the weekend, maybe have Monday and come back Tuesday, but that didn't work out. After the first time I realised that it would be Wednesday before I'd be well enough to go back to work. So then we changed things accordingly. But that was the plan, and I could see that in my head, and that really helped me. The next thing you can do is prepare your happy or safe place. It's probably not going to be your happy place, but it might be at times. But a safe place where you can retreat to and be comfortable. So mine is my sitting chair in the lounge, and what made a massive difference to me was getting myself a V-pillow. So this is memory foam, and it really helped me to be comfortable, whether I was just feeling my shoulders were really stiff, because you tend to protect the area where you have the cancer by sort of hunching your shoulders over, and you need to relax them because that will give you problems, which I had with muscles in my back. So as soon as I put this in the chair and I sit on it, and all my shoulders just relax, and that is a real help. So I've got my comfortable chair, I've got my V-pillow, I've got my footstool, which I already had, but I would really suggest you get one of the right height for you to be comfortable, not too low, not too high. My blanket, I've got a cardigan on the side in case I feel cold and I don't want to ask someone to get me one or get up to get it myself. I would have a glass of water there and access to, for example, box sets. So my television is there and it's a really good viewing place. So I would suggest you get some box sets, either that's your favourite, maybe that you've never seen and you've wanted to. This is a time to treat yourself because you need to have this distraction during some of the times in your chemotherapy. I think actually lockdown is a good practice run for this, because finding ways to occupy yourself to make the time pass is a really good understanding of what's to come. So the other thing that you can do to prepare is meals. Plan your food, particularly to help your immune system, but in particular put some meals away in the freezer if you can, for those days when you really don't want to cook. It's the last thing that you'd like to do. And if you're fortunate enough to have someone that can cook for you, that's wonderful. But if you've got a backup of nutritious meals in the freezer that you can take out in readiness, then you won't be tempted to reach for something which is unhealthy, and you'll be nourishing your body to give it the best chance to protect you and heal you. The next thing I would say is educate yourself before you start. I wouldn't go on the internet and start researching, because you will get all sorts of horror stories maybe. I don't know, because I didn't go. I didn't risk it because I was fragile. But what I would suggest you do is look at things that are based in science. For example, within the last few weeks, on the BBC, which is now available on BBC iPlayer, there was a programme called The Truth About Boosting Your Immune System, and it was presented by a lady doctor, Dr. Ronks Ikaria. And that, I think, is the best programme I have ever seen about the immune system. And what they did with her, they took her blood before and after various things that she was put through. One of which was she had a fear of spiders, and she addressed that fear, and it turned out that that boosted her immune system, even in the short term. But all of the things on there, they showed the science at cellular level. They showed the T cells, they showed the bacteria in the stomach and how that was affected by what we eat, and how much that boosted the T cells to fight the invader. In this case, it's around the time of COVID, so they were educating us for that. But it is the same for when your immune system is low with any treatment, medical treatment. So I really would suggest you have a look at that. There was another one this week in the same way with a different presenter, and that was about the truth about exercise. And that was really enlightening as well. And you might find, if you have a look at that, that you can be selective about the exercise you do, and know that it is giving you benefit, not feeling that it's a waste of time. So the other thing I would do, think about what you're going to be wearing. You need some comfortable loungewear, which you may already have because of lockdown, but it's worth sending for some if you haven't. You'll want probably not to wear a bra at times. Just what you want is just to be as comfortable as possible, and then you can sail through, I hope, what's ahead.